Our research includes medical research, nanotechnology, biotechnology, the creation of the world's first fully contained electric car system, Better Place, which will be going into effect in February, in which the entire state of Israel will become a laboratory for electric cars, and that is a joint U.S.-Israel project. Better Place has its headquarters in Netanya and in Silicon Valley in California. We may be the only two countries in the world that have major streets named after one another. We have Lincoln Street in Jerusalem, we have Washington Street, and yes, we have Martin Luther King Street in Jerusalem. And if you go to New York, you'll find Golda Meir and Ben Gurion boulevards and avenues. This is a special relationship in every sense of the word. I know nothing remotely like it in modern history. But does this mean we agree on everything? Guess what? We don't. We do not agree on everything. We do not agree, for one example, on the status of Jerusalem. It's in the news quite often. Now, I mentioned earlier that 63 years ago today, Resolution 181, the partition resolution, was signed. And in that resolution, yes, it created an Arab and Jewish state, but it designated Jerusalem as an international capital, international city. The United States continues to adhere to that resolution. And for that reason, the United States did not recognize their Jordanian presence in Jerusalem from 1948 to 1967, did not recognize West Jerusalem as Israel's capital between 1948 and 1967, and did not recognize, after the reunification of Jerusalem by Israel in 1967, does not recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital to this day. Ideally, the United States wants to maintain a status quo in Jerusalem until such a time as a peace can be worked out between Israel and its Arab neighbors. Israel, for its part, regards Jerusalem as its sovereign capital, but not only the sovereign capital of the state of Israel, but the spiritual capital of the Jewish people for 3,000 years, and the spiritual capital of Jewish people worldwide today. Israel upholds the right of all residents, Jews and Arabs, to live anywhere in the city, to build in that city anywhere legally, just as Jews and Arabs have the right to live in any city in the United States, including Atlanta. Under Israeli law, Jerusalem has the same status as any Israeli city, as Haifa and Tel Aviv. Excuse me. It has been that kind of long day. Water, thank you. And it has the same status as Haifa and Tel Aviv, and Israeli leaders, excuse me while I swig, Israeli leaders can no more tell Israelis that they cannot build in a certain neighborhood of Jerusalem than, say, the President of the United States can tell an American citizen that they can't build in Pittsburgh. This is not just the policy of the current Israeli government. It is the policy of every Israeli government going back to 1967, Labor and Likud alike. And this is not just the policy of the Obama administration, it's the policy of every American administration, going back to 1967 and in some cases before to 1948. So it's a long-standing disagreement between them. Now, what is different today is that the current Israeli government, under the leadership of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, understands that the Palestinians have a different position, and understands that when the Palestinians come to the negotiating table, and we hope that will be soon, that the Palestinians will present their position on Jerusalem at the negotiating table, and together we will have to work out a solution for Jerusalem. That is a sharp distinction from the positions of previous Israeli governments. The United States and Israel have also had disagreements over the question of settlements. You might have noticed this. The United States has long asked Israel to refrain from building communities in the areas captured by Israel from Jordan in the 1967 Six-Day War. And for many years, the United States had hoped that the West Bank would serve as a basis for a peace agreement between Israel and Jordan after the signing of the 1993 Oslo Accords between Israel and the Palestine Liberation Organization. That hope transformed into one in which the West Bank, what we call Judea and Samaria, would serve as the basis of the Palestinian state along with Gaza, and transform and end the conflict between Israel and the Arab world on the basis of two states for two people. Israel's position has always been the area that we call Judea and Samaria is the homeland of the Jewish people. You look in your Bible. Haifa is not in the Bible. Tel Aviv is in the Bible, but it's a town in Babylonia. What is in the Bible is Bethlehem, Jericho, Ophrah, and Hebron, and of course Jerusalem. These are the towns in the West Bank and Judea and Samaria. These are literally our tribal land. And for a Jewish state constituted as a Jewish state, no government, left, right, up, down, center, can tell a Jew that they cannot live in their ancient homeland. Cannot be done. Which is why Israel has also held that the borders of Israel before 1967, which left Israel in an undefensible position, which at one point were 8 miles wide, Israel also does not want to return to the 1967 borders because we have security concerns there. With that, this Israeli government has taken extraordinary measures. It has undertaken to refrain from building new settlements. We don't build any new settlements. We do not expand the settlements outward. We have undertaken to ensure that any constructions within the settlements will not impact any future peace map between us and the Palestinians. We are not even incentivizing Israelis to move to those settlements. And in a truly unprecedented move, we had frozen construction for 10 months in an effort to induce the Palestinians to come back to the negotiating table. But most importantly, most fundamentally, the government of Israel recognizes that this area is also the homeland of another people, not just our homeland. And we acknowledge the fact that in order to have peace, to even conceive of that dream of peace someday, we're going to have to divide this land. One way or the other, we're going to have to divide this land equally. And hopefully, on the basis of mutual and reciprocal recognition, we will recognize that Palestinian state as the nation state of the Palestinian people, but the Palestinians have to recognize our state as the nation state of the Jewish people. Now, Israel shares President Obama's vision of a viable Palestinian state living side by side with us in permanent and legitimate peace. But I want to stress this, that even on the peace process, which makes the headlines all the time, these disagreements between us, the agreements between us vastly outnumber the disagreements. Not only do we agree on the end of the process, the two-state solution, we agree that peace must include defensible borders for Israel and security guarantees, so that the West Bank does not become another southern Lebanon and Gaza. Remember, we evacuated those areas hoping to get peace, and all we got was missiles. We do not want this future West Bank Palestinian state to become another Gaza. We agree on the need to resume direct talks between us and the Palestinians. This can't be done indirectly. We have to sit opposite one another at the same table and make peace. And we agree on the need to build up the Palestinian economy, to build up Palestinian national institutions, so that state can have a bottom-up process. So that someday, when our leaders sit and agree on that final line and sign that peace treaty, the Palestinians won't have to begin the state-building process from the very beginning. Perhaps the greatest source of agreement between us could have been the greatest source of divergence between us. And that is of the question of Iran, which is also in the news, particularly today. The United States and Israel together recognize that a nuclear-armed Iran represents a mortal danger not only to Israel, but to all the nations of the Middle East and to the world as a whole. We agree that a nuclear-armed Iran can transfer those nuclear arms to terrorist organizations, to Hezbollah, to Hamas, and to others, that a nuclear-armed Iran will trigger a nuclear arms race in the Middle East that will transform the entire region into a tinderbox that could blow up at any second. And we agree that the international community must act together decisively to stop Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons by levying effective sanctions against that regime. And I'm happy to report that those sanctions are having an effect. They're biting. The Iranian regime is squirming. They should be coming back to the negotiating table shortly. Hopefully, maybe reaching an agreement that will result in the suspension of their nuclear program. So far, we have not seen that the sanctions have an impact on the Iranian nuclear program, and therefore we uphold our policy that all options will remain on the table. The position of the United States government is as well. All options are on the table. True, even between the closest of allies, there can be disagreements. I know this as an historian. I studied the British-American alliance during World War II. Occasionally they disagree, but the true litmus of an alliance is not whether the parties to that alliance agree all the time, but rather how we deal with our disagreements, how we interact with one another, constructively, honestly, in a spirit of friendship and cooperation. And that is what I've learned as ambassador every single day, how the United States and Israel interact in precisely that manner. Together, the United States and Israel are committed to reaching our common goals. We share that dream, a dream of a prosperous and a peaceful Middle East, in which Israelis and Palestinians and all peoples of the region can interact freely and fruitfully. We share a dream of an unbreakable American-Israeli friendship that keeps expanding into frontier fields of medicine, nanoscience, and the search for alternative energy. We have a dream. And we, the people of the United States and Israel alike, we have that dream, and we bear the responsibility for realizing that dream. Thank you all.